cochlear implants put me to where I am today. I can hear and I can speak. But for closed captioning, that has helped me on an educational platform where I can watch videos our professors will send out to us. And I also can do transcribe for notes and stuff so that it can transcribe what the professors are saying. And for strobes, that really put me on an equal playing field as all the other swimmers because I'm always the last person off the blocks until one day I got DQ'd.
In the world of technology, heroes are everywhere. They're overcoming disruption, delivering sustainable outcomes, and fearlessly forging the future to solve what's next. Join me, Ed McNamara, as we meet the people and businesses driving change in our constantly disruptive world. This is Innovation Heroes, a podcast brought to you by SHI. When you think of accessibility in everyday life, what comes to mind? Ramps and elevators, priority seating or audio announcements on public transportation? Or, unless it's right in front of you, do you even think about it at all? The truth is, over 95% of disabilities are invisible. According to the U.S. Department of Labor, of the 170 million people in the United States workforce, 25% have some sort of disability. That's over 42 million Americans navigating challenges most of us never notice. As business and IT professionals, are we absolutely sure we're providing the tools our entire organization needs to compete at the highest levels? Our guest today, Brooke Thompson, knows this firsthand. Brooke is a Division I swimmer at Rutgers University, a Deaflympian, and as of this summer, an SHI brand ambassador. Brooke has spent her life pushing boundaries. In addition to winning 8 medals at the 2022 Deaflympics, Brooke uses adaptive technology to compete at the highest levels in the pool and the classroom, and is now using her voice to advocate for inclusion. Today we'll talk about Brooke's journey, the technologies that help her compete, and why IT and business leaders need to rethink how they address accessibility in their organizations. This isn't about being compliant. It's about making sure we all support an environment where everyone can be seen and heard, and where everyone can, quite literally, see and hear everyone else. Brooke, welcome to Innovation Heroes.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Absolutely, and thanks for being here. Brooke, let's start at the beginning. How did swimming become such a big part of your life, and what drew you to the water?
My parents wanted me to know how to swim, especially since I can't hear them at all when I'm in the water. And it's like a big survival skill I need. If there was any danger or anything, I needed to know how to swim. And ever since I had my first steps in the water park, I just loved the water. And after I had some of my first few swim lessons, I begged my parents to put me on a swim team. And so that's how I'm a swimmer today.
Would it be safe to say that your parents said, if you're going to participate in summer water sports with us, you're going to need to be the best swimmer out there?
Yes.
Set the stage for me. Where did you grow up, and where did this all take place?
I grew up in Michigan, so I'm surrounded by the Great Lakes, and Michigan also has a lot of little lakes as well. And being in the water, like water parks and doing little water adventures is a big thing in our family. And my granny, she has a little house near the beach and stuff, so I've always been around the water. And that was a big thing on why my parents wanted me to know how to swim.
Excellent. So when did you get your first cochlear implant, and kind of what's the process? So you're born deaf, you got a cochlear implant. So when did that happen? And then how does it work? How does your body become acclimated to that?
So I got my first cochlear implant when I was 1. Back when I was younger, so 20 years ago, I could only get 1 cochlear implant at the time, and I had to wait until I was 1 year old. And I got the first one around my birthday, and they put a magnet inside my head, so they opened my ear. I'll save you the details.
Right.
But I have a magnet inside my head, and then I got my second one when I was 4. And the main reason why I got it when I was 4 was because I was not doing very well in school. And the speech therapist and the audiologists and the teachers were suggesting that I get my second one to see if I do better. And after I got my second one, I did a lot better. And it takes about a year for me to adapt to a cochlear implant. So the right side, which is the one that I got, the second one, and that one's my weaker side because I got it later in my life.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm looking at you, right now, and your hair is covering. Most people have no idea that you even have cochlear implants, right?
Yeah.
I remember we met at an LPGA event where you and a bunch of other Rutgers athletes volunteered to be standard bearers, the people who actually carry the score as the tournament is happening. And I was introduced to you, and we had been talking for a few minutes, and then I had turned my head, and you actually turned back and said, can you please, face me when you're talking, because I can't read your lips when you're turned away. And it took me a couple of minutes for that to even register, because I had absolutely no idea. Is that something that happens to you a lot?
That happens to me a lot. In my internship right now, my hair's always down, and I was with some interns, and they didn't know I was deaf until the next day when the Rutgers football game was going on. I'm on the video board for this like closed captioning app, and I'm like, describing like who I am and then talking about this app. And some of the interns on the field were like, I had no idea she was deaf, and she was in the car right next to me dropping off something. And it's just something very interesting to see day to day. And it does happen to me a lot, but I get used to it, and it doesn't bother me because I always explain, and they always have good questions to ask me about it afterwards.
The game that you're describing was this past weekend, and there was basically the equivalent of a Wizard of Oz type storm that hit before that particular game. And I happened to run into you as everybody was being instructed to shelter in place. And you said to me that you had just run from all the way across the furthest parking lot to get to that building.
Yeah.
And you weren't out of breath, by the way. So thanks for making the rest of us look bad. And it was absolutely monsooning down. And then you went up the stairs, and then a minute later, I thought, Brooke cannot get those cochlear implants wet.
No.
Is that an actual concern?
Yeah, that was an actual concern for me, which is why I ran, because for the shelter in place, you had to be underneath something. And at the football stadium, I was like in the stairwell, but there's still a lot of open windows and stuff so the rain could get in. So I just sprinted as hard as I could all the way to the rock, and so that way I was actually in a place where there's windows and stuff so I could get my ears wet.
So you're a swimmer. How does that work?
I have a food saver, and I seal it in these little bags, and then I put it underneath my swim cap, and I can hear my teammates and my coaches and the the starters.
So thinking back to the first time that we met, and you're a competitive person, and there's all of these people in your life that have no idea that you were born deaf. In your competitive nature, do you ever think to yourself, I might be one of the world's best lip readers ever?
Yeah, yes, I do.
Is there any way to prove that?
Well, whenever my teammates want to test it out to prove that I can lip read, they always have me take out my ears, and then I'll turn around and they'll start talking, and I can't hear them at all. And then I'll turn back around and they'll say a few words, or they'll say the most common thing they say is, what am I saying? And I'll just repeat to them, what am I saying? Mm-hmm. And that's how I prove that I can lip read. But I can also lip read my coaches, and I got into trouble a lot. So they learned how to turn around so that way I can't lip read them.
Kind of like the NFL coaches covering their mouth with the play sheet, right? You've competed on some of the world's biggest stages, from the Deaflympics to the Big Ten, representing, Team USA and Rutgers University. Tell us about the Deaflympics and what makes Deaflympics special or different from other competitions.
Deaflympics is like Olympics. It's got Olympic sports in it, but the only thing that's different is all the athletes are hard of hearing or deaf. You have to have a certain hearing loss in your best ear. And a lot of people have hearing aids, cochlear implants. Some of them don't even have any implants at all. They either know ASL, or they know ASL and oral, or just oral. And for me, I'm just oral. I don't know any ASL. I know a little bit. But it's a really good competition. It's a really good environment because we're all in the same boat. We're all in the same place, and we're having an equal competition because there's no disadvantages. We're all at disadvantage, and that's what makes us equal.
And ASL, for our listeners out there, American Sign Language, when you go to the Deaflympics, and you've been to the Deaflympics before, you say it's actually in a world full of people who were born deaf, or they don't have to be born deaf. They just are deaf at the time of competing. You guys find a way to communicate, right?
Yeah, we some of us can talk to each other. We do ASL, or sometimes we'll just write on our phones and talk. And for other countries, we have different uh, languages, and there's also different languages in sign. And so we use our facial expressions, our body language, and it's really interesting to see because most of the time we understand what we're talking about, even if it's a completely different language, because we all have the same facial expressions, the same body language, and it's just an amazing thing to experience.
Do you think you're better at nonverbals than other people? Like
Yeah, I think so.
at the 2025 Big Ten Championships, your time in the 50-meter freestyle, 23.53, set the USA deaf swimming record.
Yes.
Did you know it the second you touched the wall?
It took me a second to process because it was really close to my personal best time, but I dropped a little bit. And once I realized it, I told my coach right away. I was like, I broke the record, and he was really happy.
That's awesome. Congratulations on that. Being a lip reader, you went to high school during the COVID era.
Yes.
Like, what was that like?
Really hard. I was always mentally exhausted, and I missed out a lot. I couldn't understand my teachers mainly because they always had a loud, clear voice. But I struggled in classroom settings where we were all talking at the same time or trying to do group projects because everyone was wearing a mask. I couldn't read anyone's lips, and there was too much noise for me to try to process what was going on. So it was very hard, and I definitely struggled a lot.
What's the biggest misconceptions people have about, people who are deaf?
I think that we can't hear. Some of us have hearing aids and cochlear implants, but I also think a lot of people think we're slower. Because when I tell them they're deaf, sometimes I notice that they try to talk slower. Just talk normal speed and I'll be fine.
Right.
But I also think that for like some other misconceptions is like we can't do some things, and I think that's something that I want to like advocate for. I want to tell people that no, we can do the same thing as you. We may just need a different pathway to that.
So we've heard stories about when people try to speak to somebody in another language, they speak louder, and with you, they speak slower, right?
Yeah.
Like
in your
mind.
Sometimes it's louder, but most of the time it's slower.
In your mind, what are you thinking?
I'm like, please just speak normally. If I actually can't understand you, I'll ask you to repeat it, or I may ask you to speak slower or louder.
Got it. So let's turn to technology. Technology's played a huge role in your success. Can you share how cochlear implants, closed captioning, and that strobe light at the starting block have changed the way that you compete?
Cochlear implants put me to where I am today. I can hear and I can speak. But for closed captioning, that has helped me on an educational platform where I can watch videos our professors will send out to us, and I also can like do transcribe for notes and stuff so that it can transcribe what the professors are saying. And for strobes, that really put me on an equal playing field as all the other swimmers because I'm always the last person off the blocks. Until one day I got DQ'd because I heard someone else say go, but I thought it was like my turn to go. I thought that was the starter. And when the officials realized that, they were like, we have a strobe, let's give it to you. And that's completely changed my whole entire swimming career. I'm able to go off the blocks around the same time as everyone else, hopefully maybe one of the first people, but I don't really pay attention to that, but it's helped me significantly.
So when you say DQ'd, can you just explain the rules for the NARPs out there?
I got disqualified, and that you can, for starts, you can get disqualified if you leave early or if you flinch. And the time that I got disqualified, I kind of left early / flinched. It was a little bit of both, but that it was at a really big meet. There was about 1,200 people there, and I heard someone behind me, and the way they said go sounds like the beep for the starter. And then I got DQ'd, and my coach found out, and he was like, why did you guys do this? Like, she's deaf. But at the time, they didn't do that because they didn't know. They didn't read the USA swimming thing that says that I'm deaf on it. And they were like, well, we have a strobe for her. Let's try that. Hopefully that will help her from getting disqualified. And the only other time I got disqualified was I actually really did flinch, and I wasn't even upset that they disqualified me.
So you actually were like, no, that's an actual fair disqualification that any swimmer would have gotten because I messed up on that one.
Yeah.
The strobe, it's hooked up to, is there a starting gun? Sorry for my ignorance there.
I don't know what it's called, but it's like this starting block thing where the officials stand by the side of the pool and it's right there, and it's hooked up to that.
Well, thank you for explaining it to our NARP audience out there. And for those of you that are out there, Brooke is smiling because she knows, and all college athletes talk about the rest of us as non-athletic regular people. So
Yes.
thanks for the extra for the explanation there.
Sorry, guys.
All good. Let's talk about the workplace and tech relevance. One thing we're hearing from users is how important it is to have options in the technology they use every day. And adaptive technology is not a one size fits all solution. It's flexible, it's responsive, it's a strategy that equips everyone with the tools they need. It could be closed captioning, visual alerts, to integration with assistive devices, flexibility that can transform how people work, learn, and communicate. Whether it's closed captioning, whether it's the strobe, whether it's your cochlear implants, how does having access to adaptive technology and the ability to choose the tools that fit your needs shape your experience?
It it helps us be on the same level as many people, and also it prevents us from wasting time trying to get these accessible technology or adaptive technology that we need. And if we have it right away, or if it's been communicated like, oh, this is what we have for you, and like that is something that we need, that helps us put it from wasting time and like putting us to allow us to work just as hard as others.
So it's a productivity issue,
Yeah.
but also it's a little bit more. I mean, is it fair to say that you have to work just a little bit harder? I mean, what's so
Yes.
right now you're a D1 swimmer who's training to compete in the Deaflympics. You just started classes again in September. Like, what's the end of your day look like these days?
Oh boy, the end of the day is doing some homework, and then I'm just too tired to process anything. I have listening fatigue because of that, my deafness, and so the end of the day, I try to do my homework if I can, and then I try to read a book maybe to like let my mind relax, and then I just go to bed pretty early.
How do you describe listening fatigue?
Listening fatigue for me is I can still hear people, but I'm not processing what people are saying. So sometimes it will take me a longer time to figure out what people are saying. I also tend to be more quiet because I just don't want to listen. Like it's just really tiring at the end of the day, and it's like my eyes get very tired. My eyes get heavy because I'm very visual. I'm looking at everything. I'm very observant. So it's more so the listening. I can't process it, and my eyes are just very heavy.
Yeah. Well, thanks for explaining that. You've often talked about everything that you've described there, including as we talked earlier about your cochlear implants, they're just invisible to everyone else, and like we don't know that. And you've often talked about how important it is to feel seen and supported, whether it's in the pool, in the classroom, or at work, and kind of the numbers back that up. So, according to Gartner, which is an IT industry analyst, when companies embed inclusion into their values and hold themselves accountable, including and most especially in their technology decisions, performance can rise by about 30%, and turnover risk, which is employees leaving, that could be cut in half. Yet 7 out of 10 employees say they've never been shown how to promote inclusion or technology accessibility in their daily work. Can you share an example from your own life where you truly felt, understood and supported, through technology or otherwise?
Uh, I felt with my audiologist, sometimes there's things that I don't know I have access to until she tells me I have access to. I didn't know about the idea of food savers until she told me that when she found out I was into swimming. I didn't really use closed captions a lot when I was younger, and it wasn't a very big thing a lot when I was younger. So she told me about that, and then every movie, I rewatched a lot of my childhood movies
Really?
because of closed captions. Yes, um, I think my teachers have really supported me too with the deaf program. And I had like a special microphone that really helped me. I also felt really seen when I talked to Coach John for Rutgers before I came here. He understood, like, he didn't understand, but like he knew where I was coming from. He knew the hard work and all that. And I just felt really supported. And like he gave me the most opportunities for it. And I also felt supported by SHI being seen from the golf tournament, being a standard bearer, that was a really cool experience, and it's just helped me ever since.
Well, you've been helping us. I mean, literally, as we were preparing this podcast, it was only a couple of days ago, and I was thinking to myself, Our guest always has on like earphones, and our producer is talking like to both of us, and the room set up. And I was like, we're advocating for inclusivity, and yet I hadn't even considered a lot of the things. I was just like, oh, it's a podcast. Like, no, like we have to do a couple of things here that are very easy to do, but even when you're thinking about it, like it's not automatic for those of us. And that's why we're really happy that you're appearing here and really sharing your platform, because we support millions of end users through our thousands of customers, and the statistics bear it out. You know, if 1 in 4 workers, it's just a massive, 42 plus million people, need this kind of assistance. So, can you share an experience where you've had to advocate for yourself, and what advice do you give to others?
I always talk to my professors at the beginning of semester, advocating for myself, saying this is who I am. I'm completely deaf. This is what I need in class. Like if I ever have questions, I will ask you. If you have questions, ask me. I also advocate for myself through the swim team. Sometimes people don't realize, so I'm explaining to them, and then I always ask people all around me. I'm like, please ask me questions. If you have any questions, ask me. And I also learn more about myself that way too, because sometimes people ask me questions I would have never thought that they were curious about or didn't understand how it works. And then maybe I didn't know the answer, but then I would go look it up, or I would ask my mom, be like, Mom, what's the answer to this? Because she's watched me growing up my whole life. So she knows more than I do sometimes when it comes to deafness, which is kind of funny because she's not deaf.
Research shows that up to 74% of employees who request accommodations have at least one request denied. Why do you think organizations struggle to get this right?
I think it's because sometimes people don't believe that you may need this, or they don't understand how it will help you. And the best way to combat that is just talking to that person, be like, why do you need this? Like, how does this help you? Does it truly help you? Instead of like that person trying to take advantage of something. And I think that's the best way I like it when people ask me that, because I'll be like, no, like I actually do need this, and this is why, like, this is what I need. And it's really helpful.
And it's not about just being compliant. I mean, there are laws on the books. These things have to be provided, but compliance is one thing. What does it say to the culture when organizations actually are good at this? Like, what does that make you feel like?
I feel like if they're good at it and they're communicative, it makes me feel very supportive, and I just want to work even harder and like try to stay in that organization. But it's also, it just allows more people to feel supportive outside that organization, be like, oh, this is someone that I can rely on, or an organization I can rely on.
Absolutely. Companies like Microsoft, Apple, and Google have built accessibility right into their platforms, and people are using it every day. 32% of Windows users rely on accessibility features daily. On Windows, tools like live captions, mono audio, and custom caption themes help people follow content and personalize their experience. On Apple devices, features like live captions across iPhone, iPad, and Mac, visual alerts, and Bluetooth integration with cochlear implants make communication more serious. Brooke, have you used any of these or others that you've used, and how have they made a meaningful difference in how you learn, communicate, or show up and work in life?
I definitely used a lot of the live closed captioning with Zoom, with team meetings, all that kind of stuff. I've also used the Bluetooth from Apple that can connect from my phone and iPad, and that's completely changed my life. And it came out a really long time ago. I can't remember how long ago, but I've been able to answer calls a lot more easier. I used to hate calls. Because sometimes I just can't hear, or I just can't understand the person. But now that it goes directly to my ears, it blocks out part of the surrounding, and then I can hear the person crystal clear. And it's been very helpful. I can listen to videos through the Bluetooth. I can listen to the music through Bluetooth, and it's a lot clearer for me. And it's just interesting to hear the sound difference between the Bluetooth and then the non-Bluetooth.
When you say you listen to music like through Bluetooth, like how does that work? That sounds fascinating to me.
It's like, I guess it works the same as headphones, but it just goes straight into my ears, and then I can turn off the background noise. So like right now I have it on where I can still hear people around me a little bit if they're talking to me, But when I go into the airplanes, I turn off the background noise completely. So the only thing I can hear is the music.
So on an airplane, crying baby,
Nope. Nope. Or I'll just take my ears out.
no problem for Brooke. Gotcha. Well, that's going to help because you're 2 months away from flying to Tokyo and representing Team USA in the Deaflympics. What are you looking forward to most in visiting Tokyo?
I'm looking forward to get those medals, hopefully. But mainly to see my friends again internationally and domestically. I'm also looking forward to making more friends and meeting more people in more countries and all the new people as well. I'm also looking forward to watch the newcomers on Team USA grow through this experience. I've definitely grown a lot since my first Deaf Worlds. I was around 14 years old, and that shaped my swimming career as well. And I hope it does the same for a lot of the newcomers on Team USA.
So you are, based on your 50 freestyle time, the fastest, deaf USA swimmer,
Yes.
right? So you're expecting some medals, aren't you?
Yes, I am. And some relay medals too with all my other teammates.
How did you know that you were a D1 level swimmer, and when did that happen, and when did it kick in?
I didn't know. I didn't know until some D1 schools reached out to me, and that's when I realized I had some potential. But I just never saw myself. Well, I always wanted to swim in college, and I was hoping one day maybe D1. But I didn't believe in myself for that, and I was just like, maybe I'll just go to a D3 school until Coach Chan reached out to me, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. I also didn't know where Rutgers was or anything. I did a bunch of research, and it's put me to a Big Ten school now, and this is where I am. It's just, I don't know, like I would never thought that. I also would have never thought I would be able to get a medal at Deaflympics. So it's just really interesting to see like my progress and the things I've been able to do.
Yeah, it's not called the University of New Jersey. That would sound very strange.
No, I think Rutgers suits Rutgers.
Fair enough. I think we agree on that. Who's going with you to Tokyo?
Like in my family, my parents. I wish my brother could come too, but he's also in school for college, and we're missing a little bit of school, so he can't really do that. But my parents are going to come, and then, yeah.
You've said you want to be remembered as someone who set a good example and left people smiling. What does that legacy look like for you, like both in the pool and beyond?
For in the pool, it's always supporting my teammates, being happy, staying positive, and just like always being there for them if they needed a shoulder to cry on or just like someone to sit next to them, be like, it's okay. Like, we got this. We're all here together. Like, it's not the end of the world. I had to be reminded that from one of my old coaches, it's not the end of the world. And for like outside of the pool, it's just keeping positive energy, staying happy, and just like genuinely like enjoying my experiences and like living each day as if it could have been my last, like trying to live it to the fullest.
Well, that sounds amazing. You're now in the Deaflympics, an elder statesman of the Deaflympics. What's the message to the younger kids that are going to be there?
I think it's okay to be a little bit nervous, but I think you should really enjoy it and make friends with the other countries. Who knows, maybe you'll see them again one day if you get to go to the next competition or travel abroad and stuff. And I think just enjoying the whole entire thing, you learn so much about yourself. You learn more about your culture, your hard of hearing or deaf experiences, and you become a better person out of it.
Do you think that you have a better understanding of other disabilities? I mean, obviously you were born deaf, and then you've used adaptive technologies to overcome a lot of that. But does that make you better suited to understand like other disabilities that might not be visible, or like what are your thoughts on that?
For me, I've grown up with a lot of disabled people around me. I used to live pretty far away from my deaf program and like my school that I went to. So I was always on a bus with other disabled people, like some people in the wheelchair that went to different schools. So I felt like I have a good understanding, but I don't know if I would say if I had a better understanding, but I understand some of the struggles, and I hope that I can speak for them, but I know I can't speak for all of them, if that makes sense.
It does make sense. Well, Brooke, I just want to say, like, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for being an SHI brand ambassador and for sharing your story and just educating us, so much on, what we should be doing, to make sure that we're inclusive of everyone, in the workforce and the world.
Thank you. Well, thanks for having me, and I'm glad that I'm here.
We are too. And good luck in Tokyo.
Thank you. I'm excited.
In the workplace, the starting blocks aren't the same for everyone. Too often, many employees with disabilities don't feel empowered to ask for accommodations, and organizations miss out because the right technology is not in place to help them thrive. Brooke's story shows why inclusive technology matters for athletes, for teams, and for organizations like yours. When you consider accessibility early in your technology strategy, you unlock not just potential for individuals, but for teams, organizations, and the communities you serve. Once again, a big thank you to Brooke Thompson for sharing her story. And to our listeners, let's take this as a challenge. If you're a leader, don't wait for someone to ask. Start the conversation and make inclusion the standard today. This is Innovation Heroes. Thanks for listening.